this going. Now, what I'm going to do is take us further into this other world. Hopefully this will work out just right. Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to do this live situation thing here. And what we're going to do is we're going to be entering a special place. Here we go. I want to see if now I go like this. Okay. Let's see what's going on here. Game capture. Here we go. All right, we are in the tiny glade world, ladies and gentlemen, in a walk around mode. Let me go back to the other. In a walk around mode. This is the the murky underworld of Labyrinthia. Very intricately detailed place. Here we're viewing the quaint farms of the burly cylindrical town and the church with the outside, their outdoor sermons. Let's get into building mode. And a greater understanding of what happens with population and population growth. Over here you see these blue colored buildings with their fine water towers. They're siphoning the water from the earlier days of Labyrinthia when the Minotaurans once ruled the town. Over here you see this is the Minotauran family castle. And their collection of nests. Continuing on, here is the new Labyrinthia, and it's developing society. This is being one of the first buildings to develop in the town of New Labyrinthia, with its descending steps, as you see here. We're going towards, takes us further into Old Labyrinthia, with its nooks and crannies, full of life and stories, which can only be derived out of such cavernous walkways that it sometimes becomes. Again, there we go, that's a fly around mode, and we see the town as it had developed in its levels. As you see, the arbolists were the Minotaurans' first peoples to make the town what it was, and they were a simple people, and they each had their own little crops that they grew on their little farms, and they would trade from one another. Over here, obviously, you see the fisherman Minotauran of this simple cylindrical town. The thing is about the cylindrical town was there were no streets necessarily, and everybody knew which way to go by word of mouth and by memory. But after a while, some people moved in, and time developed from population growth from new people who had moved in and influenced the early Minotaurans into other forms of separation and commerce by being higher up and being able to preserve space by actually building on top of it. They said, well, we will not destroy the true nature if we just build above it. And so that's what happened with what became now Labyrinthia. And Labyrinthia is the town that eventually rose to a particular height, which is also known as New Labyrinthia. And then New Labyrinthia eventually became connected, as you can see, to the kingdom by the bridge right there. Right? But still an early and developing town is New Labyrinthia, and many of the buildings have yet to be occupied. A work under progress, as much as many a town and as much as many a city that grows and grows through generations of people in space and time. But the thing is about this paradoxical situation is that things change, and we don't always know if necessarily if it's for the better or for the worse. Because there's stories, tons of stories that come from within each and every one of these homes each and every one of these walkways. Some of the stories are good, and some of them maybe not. But until then, we can only wish for more peaceful days for those of us who also might relate to these conditions of living in Labyrinthia as a descendant of the Minotaurian family and all the other families that have come to live here in the town of New and Old Labyrinthia. Yeah, that's that so far. Let's see, what else? If I'm really live or not. Yep, that's me right there. Live control panel. I know not. Oh, just a second. No, I don't want to do that. I'm not sure what I'm doing, but eventually I shall learn. Okay, I'm live here. The strength current bit rate is lower than the Well, this is just trying to do a stream live for a little while. And, okay.